would say this is the one that you're probably doing best. I find that the dark L is the most challenging. There are some exceptions. Now with the light L, what I find becomes the issue in terms of accent is that a lot of people will do an ultra light or an extra light L. So there is a little bit of a balance that we're going to go over today. Okay, the first word we're going to do is like. Like. And typically you can see a little bit of the tongue. Like. Repeat after me. And hold it for 3 seconds. Like. Now, the reason we're holding it, which is similar to the practice that we did in the TH Masterclass, is because this is where you're trying to pull yourself out of the ultralight L. So if you have a tendency, and I find the best example of this is the Miami accent. So Miami is really interesting because there's a dialect or a sociolect that's developing because there's so many Spanish speakers there. And so the English spoken there is one of the best examples of the light L. So for example, like. So that's a much lighter sound. We're just going to have a little more tension in the mouth. So instead of like. So the way I like to think of it is I feel like the light L, the second one that I did, there's more bass. It's a richer sound versus a super light la. So I find that Spanish speakers tend to do that the most, but they're not the only ones. So this is just a tiny little difference. So we're going to do both so you can feel the difference. So first do the ultralight, la, and then bring it back in, like. And then notice the tongue, like. Okay. And this might feel basic, but it's really important because this is the word, the reason I picked this one, this is the one most people say correctly. So by having this base, then you're able to compare and play around and see where you're doing it less correctly. So for this one, again, as we reviewed before, the tongue tip lightly touches the upper front teeth. So it can either be here, but you'll notice as we do more examples, sometimes it's a little bit behind. So I would say that's like the ideal area. But you want to make sure that you should feel some tension in this area, because if you don't, then it's too light and that's going to sound accented. So instead of like, you'll feel a little bit more vibration. Now, for the rules, because if you're like, oh, I don't know when the L sounds like a light L or a dark L, there are some rules. But I want to remind you that even as you know the rules, don't try to memorize the rules because there's no tests. Instead, I want you to use what you know about the rules and then check your high frequency words. So don't try to figure out every word with the letter L. Instead, think about what are your top 10 words with the letter L that you use on a daily basis. Start with 10. Figure out what those are, make sure you're doing it correctly, and then you can add to it based on the English you actually use. That's going to give you much faster results. Your confidence is going to go up a lot faster. Your fluency is going to sound really good, because that's a difference between being an English student where you want to learn everything to test correctly versus being an English speaker where you want to improve the things that you use. And it's one of the best parts, in my opinion, of being at this level is there are no more tests. There's no more pressure. There's just your goal of self-improvement.